art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with item C. Pass that on to the mayor here.
Patrol Officer Marchant, right?
Yes.
Come on up. Center ourselves here. See us go back over to take pictures.
Yes, so that's my mom.
Mom, come here and get closer. Come on, Mom. If you want to come right in here, then you can right here if you want.
Go right in the center here.
Right in there.
Get a good picture.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Janelle Marchand,
You solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and the charter, ordinances, and resolutions
and the charter ordinance and resolutions
of the city of Napoleon, Ohio,
of the city of Napoleon, Ohio,
and the laws of the state of Ohio,
and the laws of the state of Ohio,
and faithfully discharge and perform
and faithfully discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties that come upon me
as a patrol officer of the city of Napoleon, Ohio,
as a patrol officer of the Napoleon City,
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and understanding.
All right? Thank you very much. I'm going to shake your hand right now, and I'll just do that. Give me one of these. I've got to have you sign this right here. We'll choose that one right there, that we want cross pens. And you can also sign right there.
Sure.
All right, you got to tell us a little about yourself now.
Sure.
Where are you from?
Defiance. I'm from Defiance, Ohio. Just graduated the police academy from Northwest State. It was about a year academy with Corona, so that was a lot of fun. Got my degree at Northwest State, and then I went and did their academy. I've been on the auxiliary with Defiance PD ever since I did an internship there with my college, and I knew right away this is what I wanted to do, and I applied here, and here I am. Very excited.
So what you just swore into is kind of odd. You understand that, right?
Yes.
And most people run away from danger, and you run towards it.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
In the game of if the game of life is tag, you're always chasing, right? Everything that you wear, everything you touch in front of your duties can all be replaced, but you keep. Okay. We all want to do lots of things on council and up here. None of us want to go to a final call service. All right. Take care of yourself. Listen to what you're being told. Right. They've been there. They all had a first day, just like you're having.
Right.
Right. Keep your head down. You should not be doing just fine. All right?
I'm very excited. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And normally we shake hands to everybody, but
I
we're not supposed to do
know.
that right now either, so.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item D, proclamation for Public Power Week. Mr. Mayor.
So we got a proclamation for Public Power Week. It reads, whereas the city of Napoleon places high value on the benefits of local control of utility services and therefore operates a community-owned, not-for-profit electric utility, and whereas because we are customers and owners of Napoleon Power and Light, we have a direct say in utility operations and policies. And whereas Napoleon Power and Light provides our homes, businesses, farms, social service, and local government agencies with reliable efficient and cost-effective electricity, employing sound business practices designed to ensure the best possible service at not-for-profit rates. And whereas Napoleon Power and Light is a valuable community asset that contributes to the well-being of local citizens through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness. And whereas Napoleon Power and Light is dependable and trustworthy institution, whose local operation provides many consumer protections and continues to make our community a better place to live and work, and contributes to a sustainable environment. And whereas Napoleon Power and Light will continue to work to bring safe, reliable electricity to community homes and businesses, just as it has since 1894, the year when the utility was created to serve all the citizens of the city of Napoleon. Now therefore, I, Jason Miles, the Mayor of the City of Napoleon, do hereby proclaim October 4th through 10, 2020 as Public Power Week to recognize Napoleon and Light for its contributions to the community and to educate customer owners, policymakers, and employees on the benefits of public power. Our community joins hands with more than 2,000 other public power systems in the United States in this celebration of public power, which is best for consumers, businesses, the community, and the nation. I think we all appreciate the work that the electric department does. You know, power lines don't seem to fail on a 70-degree day of bright sunshine. When it's storming and blowing and going outside, that's when those things fail, and that's when they call, and that's when they roll out. We appreciate it. We're not perfect. We have kamikaze squirrels in the city of Napoleon that causes outages. But I think we do a pretty good job of providing reliable power for the people that we serve. So hats off to those guys for all they do for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see a lot of people here from our fire department, it looks like. Are any of you guys on duty right now? Okay, well, I think we should move that up on the agenda, unless someone has any reason, instead of you guys sit there through everything else, in case you get a call or something, we don't want you to miss what you came here for. So let's move up to.
Do you want to do citizen communication first, in case someone else is here first?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yep. Okay, we'll go to item F. I'm sorry, let me back up 1 second. Go to item E, approval of minutes. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the minutes shall stand approved from September 21st, 2020. Okay, hearing none, they stand approved. Item F, citizen communication. If there's anyone out in the audience there that would like to address council on something that is not on the agenda, please step forward now to the podium. Okay, seeing none. Okay, now we will move to item L, good of the city, L1, discussion or action on reciprocity income tax credit. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. For me for just a moment while I bring up what was in the packet. So, so it's been close to a year since we've been talking about this issue, and giving it some after kind of reviewing what everybody's been discussing in public in all of our committee meetings, council meetings, and everywhere else, and survey comments, things like that. You see in your packet there's an amended recommendation from staff, just kind of taking in all of the different opinions of everybody. And I did first though wanted to go over a little bit, and I won't try to not to take up too much time, but just kind of go over a short recap and give a little bit of a historical perspective on why we're here today talking about this issue. And it really dates back prior to even when I started, when the state started pulling back local government funds. That was kind of the start of city governments not bringing in and having as much revenue as we would to accommodate providing services to the public. And that started, and in the last budget cycle, Kelly put together a sheet that showed the, and I apologize, I couldn't find that exact document to put up on the screen right here, but we've seen a significant drop in local government funds that was during the Kasich administration. That was on the state level, just to kind of give a short recap of that. Then there was I believe it was, during the Obama administration, the federal tax code change that resulted in a rather large income tax refund back in 2018. And after that, the going forward basis, we weren't realizing those revenues due to that reduction in income tax collections going from that point forward. So there was a big change there. That was a very steep impact to us. And then I wanted to make note of the state's increase in the gas tax. That gas tax goes right into our road construction and maintenance fund. So that's on the plus side for us in terms of kind of what we talked about on the capital side of things. Then just to kind of touch on all of the data that we have, not to go into detail on the run volumes and also what we're talking about here is the need, and the need is has to do with personnel. A number of years ago, one of the dispatcher positions was I believe was eliminated. This was back some years ago. I don't know when that was, but also the we've had a drastic increase in the number of calls for fire service and EMS services. So the total number of calls in 2019 was 1646, and we're actually trending right now to be above that again. Yet another annual increase for run volumes, and this has been a consistent trend over the past since 2008. Other than it stayed flat 2009 to 2010, but it hasn't gone down, put it that way. So up about 70, maybe up to 70%. We're pretty close at least. And then I just kind of want to get into a little bit of an explanation as to the thought process of why it changed from the recommendation from a 50% to a 30%. The recommendation here is to reduce the recommend approval of the reciprocity income tax reduction of 30%. That would mean the people that live in the city, work outside of the city in another jurisdiction that pay income tax would pay 30% of what our current income tax is, which is 1.5%. And that would only be used for personnel expenses. So, but that would mean that the income tax split every year would have to be widened a little bit further. But you wouldn't be losing money, we wouldn't be losing money out of the capital funds. So the actual dollar amount of capital funds would stay the same, stay flat. It's just that the operating expenses would be up a little higher because of that. Additional income tax revenue would go just directly towards personnel. That's kind of that's the way the recommendation is. That's the intent of it. So and again, it's the last note I'll make on that point is this. Is that we talk about when we do budgets every year, we talk about needs and wants, and I think I believe that everybody here believes that the personnel side is a need, and I also believe everybody believes that roads are a need. But in this case, we already have revenues coming in and capital expenses that go towards roads. And that dollar amount is not going to change in this recommendation. So we are addressing that need already, and especially with the increase in gas tax, those funds going into that road repair, construction, and maintenance fund certainly helps. And I guess I just wanted to make sure I give a fair and thorough explanation of why the recommendation came out the way it did. And it just seems that there's been some consternation over, and anytime you have an ask for some type of a tax on anybody, there's got to be a lot of vetting of the options and making sure that this is the right decision for everybody. And this would help soften the blow too for those that are affected by it. So the other information is backing it up. I didn't know if, you know, as a full council, we wanted to go through all of the solutions that were discussed in the Finance and Budget Committee for full council. We can certainly do that this time, or
I think that's a good idea.
you want to do that now, or do you want me to pause for any questions or anything like that right now, or just keep going through?
I think if we go through this, and then we can go to some questions, because I think this may answer some things, or at least promote some more discussion.
Okay, okay. And Kelly, did you want to, or did you want me to just go through it, or just chime in at I can't take credit for this document, so just. The first thing that we talked about, and Molly, you weren't here at the time, and Ross, I think you were just
getting on board.
Just got on board, so. Sorry if this is, you know, a lot of recap for you, but Molly, for your sake, we did look at what they call a SAFER grant. When we, that is a grant where we can hire more employees. We would actually have to hire 4 full-time employees. And over a period of time, so, you know, 100%, then it's, you know, they pay for 65%, 65, and it starts to winnow off, and in year 4, I believe, we pay 100%. So without that additional, you know, down the road revenue coming in, we wouldn't be able to afford it without doing it. So that was talked about hiring 4 full-timers instead of 1 full-time and 1 part-time. We talked about reductions in service levels to stay within our anticipated revenues. You know, as Kelly points out here, or staff points out here, this would likely need to occur for regular operations in 2021 due to COVID-19 and the large refund in 2019. That will continue to have an impact on our revenues, and that will on a going forward basis, unless the federal tax code changes again. That's going to be. This is our new norm after the result of that. You know, if this is an option, then we would have to make further reductions in service levels. We're revising the general fund versus capital fund split. So every year, right now it reads that it's 50-50. But council over the past many years has decided that to split the general fund operating to 62% and 38% for capital. Then, you know, to get roughly $400,000, which at the time we were talking about capital and operating, the split would have to be revised to 76-24. It's a drastic hit to the road fund. Now, that would be less with, you know, this revised recommendation of 30%, but, you know, you need to do the math and what that would equate to, but, you know, maybe 72, just off the top of my head, maybe 72, 28. You know, place an increase for an income tax on a ballot to generate the revenue necessary to provide the services that we're talking about. 0.2% generates about $600,000, so it would be about roughly 0.15%. But this doesn't, you know, this only addresses the current income tax. Reciprocity deals with, as we talked, right, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent. Those that live here and work in another jurisdiction and pay income tax don't pay income tax here that pays for the services. And that's the kind of the, you know, everybody, at least then at that point, you know, pays a little bit of share of something for the services revenue. And then, you know, going to a ballot issue, you know, when would it go? When would it take effect? And then when would when would we see that increase start coming in and generating enough revenue to hire people? It's definitely a long-term approach on that end. Place a levy ballot for police and fire departments, like kind of like some other jurisdictions do. But we're talking about property tax millage. Right now, the fire pension levy is at 0.3, and I believe the police is at 0.6. And, you know, generates $45,000 for the fire one. We would need 9 times that at 2.7 mils just for inside city limits to generate the again, that's to cover including the capital piece, so the full 50%, not 30%. Staffing, reduced staffing, non-emergency services. So the non-emergency services would be, a lot of our personnel outside of police and fire are funded out of, multiple different funds. The majority of it is, water, sewer, electric, sanitation, and general funds. So that's basically how everybody, most people are split. So you'd have to reduce staffing levels, 3 to 1 or 3.5 to 1 to fund one additional person in any of these scenarios. Look at a phased approach. Look at a phased approach on reciprocity over a period of 3 years. So phasing it in so the impact isn't as harsh for those that are impacted by it. But again, that only allows for doing a phased approach. So if council decides, just hypothetically, if council decides to implement this today, we would look to see revenues generated from this until the following year, if we're collecting for 2021.
Some of it would be in 2021 for the building, but the estimate's looking into 2022.
So some of it we won't collect until 2022, so we would look at, stepping in, hiring people in 2022 under this scenario. So again, that kind of keeps pushing things further and further out. But it's something, it's just, it's an option. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Look at a combination of levy reciprocity percentage. Always an option too, is like a ballot issue or, kind of a combo thing. But, your government, federal officials, we need tax reform. Well, it's easier said than done. A lot of our systems are built around certain structures, so easier said than done. And this one too, you saw Rossford had capital levy for equipment and an operating levy also. They did both pass, I believe, so it's just, it's how you parcel it out and order it out, so it fits. But it's a possibility. The reciprocity issue isn't necessarily have to be a ballot issue. It's a really council decision at the end of the day. And then, any other options, and I guess the other option, I guess, is to reduce the percentage that was originally recommended. The thought process originally adding the capital side into was to keep the split the same, but also to address that need of, we still need to, rebuild roads and redo roads. The cost of redoing roads is not, obviously not getting any cheaper. Building prices, keep inflating, and, it's just, it's a difficult task to keep up with all of this. We all hear, fix the roads, fix the potholes. It's a constant message. And it's true. There's definitely some needs out there. So, but the thought process was to have the capital piece in there, so that it kind of addresses all, kind of an all-encompassing kind of in one swoop. You address the personnel needs, capital needs, and whatever's left over is a general fund maintenance item that kind of help with the reserve fund. So, Kelly, what do you have? No, that's it. I didn't want to get too picky on that, so apologize if we went a little long. I know we talked about it a lot, so just open it up to questions and comments. And go from there.
I really appreciate all the preparation. I know there's been a lot of due diligence go into this from an array of people. So first, just want to express my appreciation for all the info gathered and conveyed to us. Really appreciate that.
Thanks.
It's a tricky topic, talking about people's money is never easy. I think there's no doubt that there's a need here. I guess my first question would be, if we do go with the 30% and we have to adjust the splits, what does that look like? Do we know?
65, 35-ish?
Yeah, 60, so the same,
Between
similar
65
as this year, 2020.
Between 65 and 35 and 66 and 34. That ballpark.
Okay.
That's what, 30%?
Yes.
And that's enough to get what we need for
Yeah,
salaries?
yeah, so, here's, again, I can't take credit for this, thank you. So the amended proposal of 30% has an estimated amount at $236,000. So remember, we got a rec levy too, so. Parks and Rec is the winner here. They're gonna get 0.2% off the top. Okay. But I will say this, we do plug sometimes some of the Parks and Rec projects, capital funds into Parks and Rec, playground equipment or whatever else. So, we can always take that into consideration. Here's the administrative expenses too. I do have both of the ordinances. We want to go through those at all, adopting this is the tax levy for parks, and then this is the, the rules and regulations for income tax. So, but these two items come right out of the first before anything else, based on the levy of the prior ordinances. So what remains is $184,481.20, approximately. Again, let me back up. Kelly will want me to say this. This 236 is a moving target every time, so that's just the way it is. So, for the dispatcher, first year projection about $50,000. Part-time firefighter projection about $55,000. And then firefighter position about 55 also. And then, the remaining would be about 23,856. That's, in that remaining piece, that's, hiring more people, keeping people, staffing up the clock, everything else.
How's a part-time more expensive than a full-time?
It's a 12-hour shift instead of the 8 hours. So,
Well, it's a combination of all hours, Mayor. So the full-time individuals work every third day, so they have a salary based on 2,600 hours per year. But the part-time, you gotta take into account every hour of every day. So it's gonna be 12 hours every single day compared to the 50-hour work weeks that the full-time make. So currently staffing the 2 daytime 12-hour shifts is about $130,000. Having a 12-hour, and by how this works here is if we have that 9th full-time position, we will then be able to do the staffing based on one person being overnight. So sometimes there may be 2 part-timers, but other times there may be 1, and that's where that $55,000 comes into play, is how many times you're gonna have that 12-hour shift overnight. I know, I wrapped my head around it many, many times when you're thinking about you gotta think about just straight hours, meaning that position represents every single day. That full-time position represents every third day or a third of the time.
So does
Can I
that,
interrupt real fast?
yep, go ahead, Billy.
I would like to clear something up, just for my peace of mind in drafting legislation or potential legislation. The reciprocity tax credit is expressed in a credit. So currently it reads, if a Napoleon resident is subject to municipal income tax in another jurisdiction, and they pay it there, they're allowed a 100% tax credit. If we were to change that to 50%, as initially proposed, then we're talking, that's easy math, but if we're making it a 30% credit, we're actually collecting 70% of what they've already paid.
no, it would be, have them pay the 30% instead of the 50%.
So it would be a 70% credit, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I had that clear, thanks.
Yep.
So if we're doing the math on the hours, Chief, that you were just talking about,
Yeah.
so you said 12 hours per day for 7 days, which would be 84 hours a week. And if a part-time person, say they got 28 hours a week, that would be basically three part-time people. Is that, did I understand that right?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If you said there's, the part-time would cover 12 hours, 7 days a week,
Correct,
which would be 84 hours.
correct.
And part-time people, I don't know how many hours a part-time person is allowed to have without then getting benefits and all of the other things.
28 on average, yeah.
Okay, so if I divide the 84 hours divided by 28, that gives us that's basically three
Correct.
part-time.
Yes,
Okay,
it's gonna take more part-time people to make up for all those hours, because they're only limited to X amount of hours, per year, which is 1,500. Our look back is November 1st to October 31st.
Mhm.
They can only work 1,500 hours within that time period. So
Okay.
however that breaks up, but yes, so there's some weeks that they could work over the 28, some weeks they could work less. But on average, it's gotta be less than the 28, 29 hours per week, and then that keeps them under the 15. So yes, it would take multiple part-timers, which is another benefit in our department, because it allows the part-time individuals that don't necessarily get to work all that often or have a daytime job that are able to work overnight, things of that nature, brings in that combination, department a little bit more. So yeah, you're right.
okay, thank you. That, yeah, I
That makes more
understand the
sense.
confusion
Yeah, that makes
on,
more sense.
yeah, because it looks like one part-time person. That clarifies it, thank you.
Yeah, I did want to clarify one thing on the sheet too. So this is just first year for these individuals. So over a period of time, obviously, we get the retention that we want, then, these numbers will go up over a period of time, as long as everybody's, we don't have turnover.
And it's not the overtime savings for the police because of the sixth dispatcher, and it's not the fire township contracts, the 24% pay.
Yep.
So it's actually higher than that.
Okay.
So, yeah, township fees are accounted for in the tax count also.
The township fees, can you explain what those are?
So we cover Harrison Township, part of Napoleon, parts of other townships. We cover Florida. Now, if you recall, we amended the contract to include Florida as well. So they're paying, everybody pays into the contracts. That's when we're at legislative rally every year, and Councilman Bear has to have the contract renewal meeting with everybody.
Mhm.
That's the contract amount. So it's roughly 24%. But each township or jurisdiction pays into our fire department to cover those services that we cover. So we cover outside the city limits.
And is that collected through property tax then, or do you know how they collect?
It's a contract with the actual townships, and it comes through the Safety and Human Resources Committee, and we had the renewal, it was this year, right? Yeah, and so they all come, and then they go over the budget and see what it is, and then everyone for the townships say, yes, so it's a contract with them that you guys sign, and then they pay us when we bill them.
Okay. So does that cover pretty much anywhere outside of the city limits that our fire department will respond to?
Yeah, the percentages, I believe, were, yeah, one of you do it.
So, the budget's broken up into 45% and 50% based on fire or EMS expenses. So each one of the townships that do a contract with us don't necessarily pay the exact same based on what service it is. So if it's based on fire service, the contract's written on the amount of real estate within that contracted area. And if it's based on EMS, then that is based on population in that contracted area. So for example, Napoleon Township, we provide both EMS and fire service to both of them, to all Napoleon Township residents that they have us contract with. But say Florida, we only provide EMS services to the Village of Florida and to Flat Rock Township, which that contract comes through Henry County Southern Joint Ambulance District. So at the end of the year, when all the expenses are added up, so they pay the year, like what they're paying today in 2020 was based on actual expenses of 2019. So when the actual expenses come in at the end of the year, then they actually pay those payments in 2020. And then we're preparing now to then meet with them in February because the contracts are renewed every April. So when they renew it in April, then that will be where we present what those set numbers are for what they're gonna pay in 2021, and that's gonna be based on the 2020 actual expenses. So it takes into account all the different operating costs, both on EMS and fire, but some of the jurisdictions or townships may only be sitting on one side of the fence. They only may be just paying us for EMS service, and where some may be paying for both. So it's a different percentage, which is broke down by the more you have in the pie, of course, it's a little bit cheaper for everybody because that percentage drops just a little bit. So then the actual expenses are split up, and then that does not include the capital side of it. So that's just the operating, and then that capital, our fire equipment fund that the money's put into every year, then they have a certain percentage that they put into that capital fund each year. So it does work out fair. The reason why the townships, why they really like that type of contract is because it's based on actual expenses rather than estimated costs. And so if you're estimating, as you know, you always estimate high and predict that your revenue is going to be a lot lower. So they always, they really appreciate that actual expense, and that's where that 24% here comes, is that whatever that actual expense is where it kind of equals out to about 24% is what the contract share is between all the townships to our budget.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Well, I'm gonna say my 2 cents now. We've been at this for a while. It's time we do something. I've been in the ballgame before. I know what the police department stuff goes through, because I was there for 32 years. I think it's time that we pay our dividends to the citizens of Napoleon and the police and fire. So I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead with this 30% reciprocity tax. And that's all I have to say on that matter.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
I have a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Yep.
I think we've got quite a bit to discuss yet.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, run volume is a reason for this need. Joel, can you tell me how much of the tax refund is a part of this? Impacting the need to do this
Of the refund from
last year?
So it was roughly, at the time, the last year was estimated about $311,000 annually.
For how long?
Perpetuity.
We're not getting that, we also had to pay him back the refund. We're
Yeah,
not
we
paying
didn't
that
pay
back. We're not paying back
Right.
311 in perpetuity.
311 in perpetuity is not what we're not collecting.
Right, but we also wrote them a check. We're writing them a check every year for a couple of years to break out that.
We did for a couple of years. About,
Is that
a little over $1
done?
million.
Is that done?
Yeah.
That is done.
It
Yes.
was an 18 and an 11,
Okay.
I don't know, I don't know about all of you, but I wondered there had to be some price that we were gonna pay for that, and I didn't see it until now. Would we be here right now if we were not?
I don't think so. I mean, you're talking,
Yes.
311,
Right.
and plus what we had to pay back. I mean, that all of that gone. So that was a big impact, and it's been admittedly for all of us, especially for both chiefs, myself, finance director. It's been a real struggle to manage our accounts and keep it where it is right now. Realistically, it's difficult because of that. It was a very, very large impact addressed. And I think, you know, I know that Chief O'Brien and Chief Mack felt it in the last budget too, when we went through and, you know, cut $84,000 out of their budgets last year, and it was hard. It was really very hard to do that. You know, you want to be able to give them everything that they need to do their jobs. You know, but it was also, we realized that we have to live within our means. And that was the hard decisions, you know, even leading up to now, is something that was nobody, and you heard Greg Heath say it, and he was here, nobody could have seen this coming. Nobody could have seen that coming. The only time he had ever heard of something like that was when the city of Oregon had to do something similar like we had to deal with in their jurisdiction because of one of their large employers.
What do we use the revenue from the non-emergency transport, what does that go toward? Is that something I'm guessing would have to probably be cut out if we don't do anything? Am I right or not?
Well, the non-emergency, oh, you got it?
Well, currently, the way it's budgeted is just as far as revenue on the 210 EMS fund. And so the amount of money, so take for example, this year, we've estimated that we'll bring in $405,000 on the EMS fund. And then it takes account the operating cost, and then it reimburses the general fund. So we estimate about $205,000 will reimburse the general fund, and it goes to pay for staffing and personnel and to take upon that general fund. Now, it does leave a balance because you obviously have to have somewhere to start in the beginning of the year. So usually the 210 runs to around a couple $100,000 in there, but you got to have that as far as starting, you know, the year. And if you do have a bad year or a year that is because it's variable, it's very fluid with EMS money, but that's what that is used after it's brought in, and it reimburses there. Yep. And then EMS revenue that we bring in from the contracts, that money is returned back to the townships that do contract with us, because they pay the contract. So if we collect any EMS money from, say, a Napoleon Township resident, then that's returned to the actual contracted entity.
And if you recall, we've been doing pretty well this year because we've been able to keep staffing levels up due to some of the CARES Act money and keeping, you know, 2 different crews separated. So it was nice, been a good relief to have that there in place. But I believe it was it last year or the year before where the revenues from the net were down?
We're down. That would, yeah, correct. They would have been down because you can see a drastic decrease in the amount of staffing because we can't provide the non-emergency. And then we like to bring in about 100,000, or that's the estimate. But we've had to cut that back due to the fact that the staffing was hit or miss in the ability to be in service. And if you're not in service, then you can't get the runs. And so now with the run volume up, that's when you expect that the EMS running, you know, the EMS money is going to be up as well. But you got to have the people to be able to do it. So as far as the non-emergency or emergency, it's both kind of combined together. But that service was really kind of created to try to help take most of the majority of the impact off of having the non-emergent or the additional personnel. So if we average about 1 transport a day, or actually 0.8, and if you average about that 0.8 per day, it's going to be close to that 100,000. But in order to staff those 2 12-hour individuals, it does take about 130 to 140,000 just for that 2 staffing. But where we benefit on that side is that we're, in that case, paying less to have the part-time at the station compared to where we were at before, paying 60 to 70,000 and in 1 year even 90,000 just based on volunteers or individuals responding in or paying for, you know, training and that sort of thing. So we get 10 hours of being able to be at the station, work hours, and potentially having 1 or 2 hours outside the station for a non-emergency transport. So. And it does provide a good service to the local, you know, hospital and the ability of individuals feeling comfortable to go to Henry County so they can be moved on to the next location.
Yes, sir.
I also have a couple questions and then a comment. And I suppose this is just me, but I need a point of clarification. On this reciprocity thing, explain the parks aspect of that to me one more time, because I still don't totally understand that aspect.
Gotcha. So, just explain reciprocity. It's
How the parks get some of that in the reciprocity.
how parks do?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So parks, let me just pull it. So when the parks levy went through, the way it reads, is basically that 0.2% of all income tax coming in goes directly to Parks and Recreation, right off the top.
That was when that was originally.
Yep.
Okay.
And no admin.
And no admin comes off of that, correct. So Parks first, admin second.
Okay.
So when the split happens every year, the rec comes off first, and then the admin comes off, and then it's split between capital and
There's a pecking order.
the way that it was passed.
And then, if we would do this revised, the reciprocity was 30%. If I understand you correctly, that is totally all personnel again, right? That's one I read and that's one you said.
Yes.
That does not go
But
for roads.
I'll tell you that that is correct. And the way it's proposed, that means every year when council does the income tax capital, the income tax split between operating and capital, it has to be widened enough to address that.
So that's the road issue.
Yeah, so that the capital dollar amount stays the same. I mean, it has to be a
Because that's addressed in
calculations
there too,
formula.
in the way that it was, council passed the ordinance that the capital has to come off. So if it's not coming out of here, the split has to be widened to account for that capital split.
And my main concern on it coming out of the reciprocity, and I understand that need, was, and believe me, I know we need to fix the roads, but we've had the citizens vote that down twice, which was a concern to me, but I know that's important, so that's what we have to do. Okay, you answered my question.
Joel, in the packet, there's a page that shows other cities and villages.
Oh, yes.
Structure. Can you just speak to that a little bit? And I don't see any that have a 70% tax credit.
Correct.
Did we think about going with a 66.67% as some of these other communities?
Yeah, like Delta, has it's basically a one-third tax, 2/3 credit, right? So, so this is what they're paying. Yeah, so, I mean, it's about, just kind of looking at it, it's 25%, I think the water bill's 25%, here's another 1/3 Swanton. Here's another 2/3 for Clinton. So yeah, I mean, they're out there, you know, I guess. I believe that it can be done any percentage that council wants, right? So just taking that into consideration, I guess we felt that 30% was the bare minimum of what our tolerance would be for be able to handle it. You know what I mean? So-
Yeah, on that same sentiment, if it's the bare minimum, I think we all know cost of business is increasing as time progresses. Is 30% gonna be enough for the foreseeable future? I think it was addressed when this was first proposed. If this is passed, the last thing we wanna do is have to go back again and ask for more. So, is 30% going to suffice for the foreseeable future?
The crystal ball says that's what we're projecting. So, again, going back to that one, the spreadsheet, that moving target piece, I mean, that just depends on how many people live here, work in other jurisdictions. They're out there, they'll always be here, but it's, you know, that percentage, that number can vary depending on where people work. Hopefully we get more people working here, and live here. They pay into the 100%, but, you know, it's a moving target.
Yeah.
I really,
That's
It's
fair.
really, really difficult to pinpoint. Kelly, I think, with Shannon, put together the, prior years' history on that, and it does fluctuate, so, with the 50%, I think it kind of was a little up and down, so, I'll just ask Kelly to answer that question.
And you never know, you hope that income tax will grow, thanks, Joel. You hope that income tax will grow every year, but like we saw with the COVID, obviously we're having an impact, no one can tell what the future is. At this point, the best estimate is that, and that can get us the first year, and then hopefully it would grow for the second, the third, and the fourth year, because obviously depending on what the healthcare will be, depending on what the raises would be, depending on that stuff would make it grow, the expenses, so then you hope the revenue can grow too.
Gotcha.
And hopefully Joel will get more businesses and we can get more.
And more, more companies paying more money too, so the withholdings would be theoretically would go up if people get cost of living increase as well. You know what I mean?
Yep. Couple more questions. With COVID, do we know will the number of citizens that will be impacted, has that decreased at all with unemployment rates, or even folks working from home, would they be impacted if they typically work in Toledo but they're working at home at this point?
Well, I believe right now they're paying into the jurisdiction in which their office is located, right? So even if they are working from home, but that's in dispute right now too, at the state level. Pardon? Oh, yeah. Do you want to just have Shannon? I didn't realize Shannon was on the call, so I don't know if you wanted to.
Hey Shannon, can you touch on that, please?
I'm sorry, I had to find my button on my phone. Right now they are paying where they would originally have worked. So if they worked in Columbus, they're paying Columbus even if they're living and working at their home in another town.
But that, again, that's in dispute, so it could change.
Okay.
And I don't
Correct.
really,
It's in
couldn't
dispute
tell you
right
if
now.
it's gonna help us or hurt us.
Right. I know when we had a projected 50% credit, it was $7.50, I think, per thousand. Do we know what the numbers would add up to be at 30%?
I can calculate it and send it to you.
About $50. Or $55 per thousand.
$5.
Yeah.
Roughly.
A little less than that.
Do we know what the median household income is?
I believe it's $42,000 now, on the new census, maybe $41,000. I'd have to check, I usually do check that, that's why I know off the top of my head, I check the Census Bureau and kind of do comparisons to Napoleon and other jurisdictions.
It's about $200 a year. Something I noticed from just looking over that, I don't know if this is correct thinking or not, but what I did notice was maybe some of the communities with higher income tax aren't some of the more attractive communities. And so I think we're at a good rate right now at what we have in place, 1.5. I also noticed those that are lower than we are don't offer a reciprocity, a lot of them. So if they're 1%, then they have 0% reciprocity, so those people are potentially paying 2% anyway, or more, depending on where they work. So we really wouldn't be terribly out of line.
Humberville, Oak Harbor, North Baltimore, Lucky, Henry Center, 1%, but 50%.
Those are also not cities, they're villages.
Villages, yeah.
They fall under different rules.
A little bit, well, general is 1.5%, yeah, it's good.
Finley.
Finley.
Mm-hmm.
Did I understand you correctly that if we started this, we would not see any revenue increase until 2021? I'm sorry, until 2022?
2022 is when we would really collect it. Partially, we would be with withholdings in 2021.
Yeah, the withholdings would come in 2021, the estimates would come in 22, just like this year, we're getting the withholdings from 2020, but the estimates would fall.
Yeah. The SAFER grant, if I'm right, it's 4 new firefighters, full-time, right?
Yep.
And it's 100% paid for by somebody else, then it tiers down. But we have to keep those 4 for a certain amount of time?
Not necessarily 100%.
Right. Do we know?
Do
The
we
SAFER
have to
grant?
keep them?
Yeah.
The SAFER grant, my understanding is we don't. They can be let go.
Okay.
Without penalty. Is that correct?
That is correct. So there used to be, when Safer first came out, they used to have a requirement that you'd have to keep them for at least 3 years after the time that they were already on the Safer grant.
Right.
But just being in the business, and it's already hard enough to recruit, it would be very hard to recruit those individuals and not knowing what the end result is. Because most of the individuals that we've had that started at our place, usually within the first 3 years, they're having kids, they've bought a house, and they're establishing themselves in a new career. And so by that time, I think it would be detrimental on the cost of what it is. And the reason why we have to do at minimum 4, is because you have to meet that NFPA standard before they're gonna give you any sort of grant funding for it. And again, it's just not a guarantee for the fact that the SAFER does look at individuals where they've had laid off firefighters first, and try to get those individuals back to work. And then, that's why you see a lot of the bigger cities do get the SAFER grant for additional new firefighters, but they can usually absorb them because they're coming out of a class of 50 and whatnot. Where us, it's gonna be really heavy-handed on that period, and if we tied ourselves to that, that's, it just round numbers at one firefighter with, after they've went through everything and the roll-ups, I always just use the number between around 80 to 100,000 with family benefits and that sort of thing. As you can see, that would be a substantial amount of cost difference between what we're looking at here compared to what it would be just for 4 there. And the last piece I'll say about that is that I do try to balance, in Napoleon being a combination department, I am really trying to balance the part-timers, the ability to be able to work at the station and have some buy-in too, because the individuals that live locally or work full-time jobs and still be able to work at the station kind of balances it for that combination department, where the full-time every single day would really cut down on the ability for those individuals.
Is there anyone that has joined us today would like to ask any questions or make a comment on this? If so, please step up to the podium there.
Or use the chat box. Or online. There's a number of people there.
I do want to clarify Councilman Commodore's motion. Would that be a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation to reduce the 100% reciprocity credit down to the 70%? I believe we would have to have the 3 reads to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, well.
We can't.
Billy.
Billy, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, we would need, and we've drafted it. We'd have to change the numbers as well. We can make it a 70% credit. I would also, this is usually a budget time piece of legislation as far as the capital split. But I believe, and I'd have to talk to Joel and to Kelly on this, but I believe that some additional language would be necessary in that legislation as well. So if I could be directed on both, that would be appreciated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ken, are you okay with your seconding that motion?
Yeah.
That way, okay. If we don't have any other questions or comments, Hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes?
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
And we will be discussing that, at least the next meeting and 2 more after that. All right.
Cosmic event.
It was.
Something happened where that just.
Okay, so we'll go back to,
Do you wanna do that? Do you wanna do L4 since Mr. Beck is here?
oh, okay. All right, we'll stay in item L, jump down to L4. Discussion or action, Twin Oaks subdivision, 7th edition, construction.
Usually, this would go before the planning commission. However, due to potential conflicts of interest, that step was omitted, and it comes right to council. And just to make sure everybody's really good, I'm gonna recluse myself because this is in my neighborhood. So I'm not gonna say anything about this.
All right. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. In talking with the landowner, developer of a piece of property on Sedward, and I could pull up a map on the Henry County GIS if you want me to on the screen so you can see it, or we can just talk about it. Would you prefer to have the map on the screen?
I think we're okay.
Okay, so where Sedward dead ends, there's about 5 acres. Okay, almost 5 acres of land. Greg Beck is here, he's the developer, and would like to extend Sedward to the end of his property, connect Joliet, and which would create roughly 12 lots, if I'm not mistaken. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. I'll invite you to come up and speak too, if you'd like, about your project. But one of the things is that there, you know, for the planning commission here, there's a lot of, there's some people that live there, there's some planning commission members that have a business relationship. So it was recommended that we just bring it to full council rather than to the planning commission. One of I guess the biggest item is that the road is right now proposed to, the extension is proposed to be in asphalt. All of Twin Oaks right now is in concrete. So, I don't know, if you want to come up, talk about the project, maybe a little history and.
Yeah, just that, we just want to extend Sedward where it is now to, all the way to the end of the corporation, which is like 780 feet or something like that. We want to make it all asphalt, which the city doesn't, the engineer, has designed for both. Asphalt's about 42% cheaper, so we want to do all asphalt instead of concrete. Plus, concrete's been a really pain to maintain. So I think, after talking to Chad and Joel, I think they're both on board too with, it's better to keep it asphalt versus concrete. It's all gonna be asphalt out there anyhow at some point in time, because all those streets will have to be dug up and replaced.
So I'll make, if you don't mind me jumping in, I'll make a
please.
couple of notes. Asphalt, and Chad, please say something. Chad says asphalt's cheaper to maintain than concrete. Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's cheaper to maintain. So from the dollars and cents perspective, that's the case. The other thing is, I just want to point out that we do have the original plats and the restrictions for the Twin Oaks subdivision. And we wanted to make sure that we did a thorough check on this, because there was some, why is?
The reason it's concrete to start with is Richard and Leslie owned it when they started it, and they hired Reese companies to do it, and they're kind of a concrete contractor, so they kind of pushed it on concrete. Plus, for whatever reason, the city let them lay it right on the dirt, on 5 inches of concrete on those first streets, and that design's not quite heavy enough. As Chad probably frowns every time he sees it. So, Yeah, so that's the big reason it's concrete. They wanted to keep it concrete. 20 years ago, in 2000, we put in our first edition of Sedward, and it was concrete, because when I bought the property, I bought the plans with it, and they were all done in concrete. And I didn't want to spend the money to change it, so we just went ahead and went with it. So that's the reason we stayed concrete, or we would have tried to probably do asphalt then, even. But meanwhile, asphalts came down, and concrete's really went up. So it's really not even a question anymore. You know, with the design that Chad gave us, either one, we did both, and it was about 40% difference. So,
What you're proposing is, so there's a little piece of this here, so this is the keep in mind for next year's, this coming year's budget. Right of way is 60 feet, except Sedward Avenue, which is 80 feet. And in here, it also, there's an exception where, because the city, in the past, wanted Sedward to be a thoroughfare. The council at the time, and planning commission, and everybody got on board that we want this road wider because it's a thoroughfare. So, so therefore, and they wanted upsize.
they upside the sewer and to bigger, and then it had to be deeper. So they paid that difference too, you know.
So the city pays the difference in the widening and the upsizing of the sewer and the deck. So we'll have a line item budget in there for that capital cost as part of this project. And this was, Chad, when was that, 1995?
The first one, it had been around 95. Robert Heff, recognize that name?
Yeah, he's the mayor.
That's old.
Yeah. But that's kind of what we're talking about right now. As for the concrete to asphalt, we looked, I mean, we went through, we went back there, everybody huddled up, Roxanne, Chad and I all went through and said, is there anything that requires it? And the short answer is no. It really comes down to, you know, a desire to keep it congruent or not, right? So, you know, do we want to do that? Is that something that, you know, everybody wants to see, and you know, how do we make it work or whatever? So I don't want to, I certainly don't want to argue one way or the other. I can just, you know, speak, you know, Chad and I can speak to the facts of, you know, the cost difference of maintenance and purchase, installation, maintenance of asphalt versus concrete. So just, you know, keep it as a more objective approach to what's being proposed here, so.
Yeah, because in this project, we're gonna take Joliet and extend it also over to Sedward. And, you know, I kind of fought because I didn't really want to do that, because it costs us a lot, and it costs about 60 grand or better to put that street in.
Yeah, and that is in here too.
But,
This
yeah.
does show that Lafayette is stubbed off, but it has Joliet.
Right.
I know, isn't
Right.
that?
You would have more traffic in front of your house.
Not in front of my house.
Oh.
I'm on the very dead end.
Oh,
Nobody,
that's true, yeah.
tractor and the deers are the only thing I run through my. But it is gonna put some more traffic out on Sedward maybe.
Yeah.
People, you know, but that's what, it's a thoroughfare. So, I mean, it's gonna be more traffic. Eventually, and probably not my lifetime, but maybe in somebody's lifetime, Sedward will go all the way out to County Road 16. That's what they kind of thought. That's why they wanted to make a thoroughfare, so it could do that, instead of have a bunch of dead-end streets that go nowhere.
Well, and Sedgwick does dead end into the city, so property on the edge is that's the end of the city.
That's the end of the corporation
Now,
limit,
unless
yeah.
they want to annex that in at some later date, that's up to the landowners and whoever else, but that's that's kind of where.
At the rate that we sold lots in the last 30 years, it probably wouldn't happen for 100, but you never know. I mean,
We had any input from current residents?
no, I warned a couple of them what was gonna happen, because I thought if you didn't want Joliet through, you better go up and speak your piece, and they didn't. So we got all the plans drawn, and we're ready to rock and roll as soon as we can get, you know, the okays.
connecting Joliet's already in the plat, it's in the master plan. And from a community connectivity perspective, you don't want stub streets. You want that connectivity, especially for safety services, which is, maneuvering around things.
And it helps too, because that loops the water line, so that does help for water service in the back there, which I would benefit from too.
There you go. These are-
Has asphalt been an issue for anyone that you've heard?
Not that I know of. But they're willing to come on board and pay the 42%, and we'll do it. We'll do it concrete.
So you said you're ready to go. How long, or when do you think this project would be
We're
completed?
shooting to break ground in December,
Oh,
but we got to get approvals through the city and state yet, so.
right.
Hey, Joel.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, was notice sent out regarding the potential vote on this topic?
No, it was not. So, that was, I haven't gotten there yet, but if you want to go ahead and.
I'll let you get there, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just, I appreciate that. It was, it just didn't think it needed to get there yet, but, well, while we're talking about it then, Peter brought up that this would normally go to the planning commission. Planning commission would, that the rules state that we have to give proper notice. It's a 10-day notification, so, I guess what I'm getting at is, we do need to make that notification, so no action needed for tonight, but, if we could table it, get the notices out, and then hear it, on October 19th,
Mm-hmm.
then we can, then action can be taken, on it at that time, if that's okay, and there's really no option at this point, so.
That works.
It's
for
gotta
me.
be okay, right?
Yeah, it's gotta be okay.
We gotta get the notices out and just make sure we follow that process that's spelled out in the code, so. It just kinda came up in an odd way because of the conflicts with the, planning commission and the other, the issues.
And all this is inside the speed limits, right?
Yes, all this.
Oh, do we need a motion to table it? Yeah. Yep.
I'll move to table
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And
Thanks,
Mr. Beck, thank you very much for all of your investments in our community. Much
Keep 'em coming,
appreciated.
Greg.
What's that?
I said, keep them coming, Greg.
Yeah.
We're trying. Sales are good now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Bill Meyer, is that, okay. Bill Myers was here to talk about, what's on that, item 7, but since he's not here, I guess,
Okay. If I see him come back in, we can jump around again. Okay, we will go back to item G, reports from council committees. G1, Finance and Budget Committee met on September 28th, 2020, and recommended third quarter budget adjustments to city council with suspension of legislation, and also referred reciprocity income tax credit back to city council for further discussion, which we've already had. G2, Safety and Human Resource Committee met on September 28th as well. Dan?
Yeah, Mr. President, we approved changes to policy 5.6 and policy 6 in the employment policy manual, which will be discussed later.
Okay, thank you. And item G3, Technology and Communication Committee did not meet earlier this evening due to lack of agenda items. All right, we'll go on to item I, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. We don't have any of those new ones. with Dewey, Joel? Let me get my stack here. All right, start with ordinance number 043-20, an ordinance accepting the dedication section of Claremont Avenue between Briar Heath Avenue and Westmoreland Avenue as a public street pursuant to RC 723.03. Have a motion?
So moved.
That's the first one.
Second.
Joel?
Thank you, Council President. This is to dedicate the section of Claremont Avenue in front of the schools between Briar Heath and Westmoreland. And this is also one of the milestones now soon to be, well, the work is done, but, you know, this dedication is the final piece to complete the milestone outlined in the Napoleon area schools campus-wide improvement agreement that we got into agreement with them last year. This is the first domino, so to speak. This was a pretty contentious issue at one point, but we resolved it with a broader agreement. So I don't know, you know, for Molly and Ross, if you want to hear more about this sometime, let me know, and we can let you fill you in on the history of that. But, you know, we've been meeting with the schools, a lot of plans they're planning in that area. It's really looking good. It's good to see the progress, and everybody's really happy with how the road looks and feels when they drive through there. Take any questions?
I'd just like to say that it's nice to see everything coming together after all that discussion. I'm very happy.
Nice to see the collaboration between the city and the school, so I know, Joel, you had a lot to do with that, and I'm sure some other people involved, but thank you very much for all the hard work on that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori, yes, Jeff,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item I2, resolution number 044-20, a resolution authorizing the city manager to renew a contract with Whirler Waste Control and Recycling Incorporated without the necessity of public bidding and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Joel?
Thank you. I wasn't going to dwell on this too much since we already had a discussion about it at the last council meeting, but this is to extend the Whirler Recycling contract for 1 year while they hold their prices. Take any questions? Requesting first read.
That'll be good through October of 2021 then?
It actually expires in December.
December, okay.
So this is just to make sure we get through the 3 reads and other things.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 3, ordinance number 045-20. An ordinance supplementing the annual appropriation measure supplement number 5 for the year 2020 and declaring an emergency, and suspension is requested. Have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Kelly?
Thank you. The first one for the general fund is to replace the money that we used for the school banners for the graduating class. We were fully reimbursed, so that's $10,600 for the general fund. And then for the undefined contingencies is to replace the unexpected grants and expenses through the police, the PERS for Dan, and the fire pension that's come up, just in case we need it until the end of the year, and that's $15,700. The next item, totaling about $72,000, is for the positions created to help with the direct response of the COVID for the firefighters, the for temporary full-time firefighters, and that'll be reimbursed through the CARES Act funding that we received. And then there's 2 items under the fire department that they would like to purchase and then submit for the PA grant, that Clayton submitted to Joel, and that totals about $47.75. So the total general fund is $101,875. And then for Fund 210 for the EMS transport, there was an error caught in the billing from 2019 through Acumed, and it's been corrected, and we didn't owe anything more. It would just be what we would have owed. And that estimate for the 3rd quarter, because we pay from the 4th quarter to the 3rd quarter, is about $15,000. For the Napoleon Aquatic Center for Fund 221, this is to encumber the portion of the contract for the building. The project cost was originally about $3.5 million, and it's around $3.8 million now. It's still within the levy dollars that were passed, but it was just needed the appropriation to encumber the contract that was passed by council. And then Fund 250, the local coronavirus relief funds, we received more money from the federal government, so that's an appropriation of $101,836.99. And there's more money coming to us, and they extended the deadline to encumber from October 15th to November 20th. And then for the Fund 400 Capital Improvement Fund, this is for the American Road. It's our fixed asset on our books, so we have to run the project through our books. The original amount that we presented to the Finance and Budget Committee was $1,650,000. We've raised it to $1,950,000. Chad had a change order. We just wanted to make sure that we had extra appropriation in case he has any more, so that we don't have to come back to you. It'll only be what it is, and the city's only paying $150,000 of that money. And then Fund 520, the Sewer Utility Revenue Fund. This is to transfer funds to the 521 Capital Improvement Fund for the volute presses, and this will be reimbursed when we get the money from the state from the loan that we're having, and that's $563,000. So the total supplementals are $3,152,753.73. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a comment on the first item on there with the banners. And that was, I just want to mention again, the city and how the community steps up. Joel, I think, Jason, we worked on that a little bit. I want to say it took us, 5-6 days to just calling businesses to come up with donations of a little bit over $10,000 to do that for the students.
I think a majority of that was in the first 24 hours.
Yeah, it was.
That's just huge. To come up with $10,000 in that short amount of time just says a lot about our community and what a strong community we have. So just wanted to point that out. Any other questions or comments? Rox, please call the roll.
Karen? She wanted
Oh,
You wanted
We need
suspension
suspension.
on
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion for suspension.
So moved.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Karen?
Yes.
Dan?
Staying.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Okay, and Rox, please call the roll on the ordinance.
Ken?
Yes.
Dan?
Staying.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Okay, that has passed on first read under suspension. Okay, moving on to item I-4 is ordinance number 046-20. An ordinance authorizing the finance director to make appropriation transfers of appropriation 3 from one appropriation line item to another appropriation line item pursuant to ORC Section 5705.40 for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, as listed in Exhibit A, and declaring an emergency. And suspensions requested as well. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Kelly?
Thank you. This is for Fund 288, the J-Rig grant. This is to move $14 from the operating to the salary line item to match the grant appropriation with the state.
I don't think we need too much discussion, or if anyone has any questions, that's fine. Can I have a motion for suspension?
So move.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call a roll on suspension.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Hey, Rox, please call a roll on the ordinance.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, that has passed on first read under suspension. Moving on to item I-5, resolution number 047-20, a resolution authorizing the finance director to transfer certain fund balances, transfer number 4, from respective funds to other funds per ORC section 5705.14 on a as-needed basis in fiscal year 2020, listed in Exhibit A, and declaring an emergency. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And suspension is requested as well in this one. Kelly?
Thank you. This is to do the actual transfer from the 520, the sewer replacement and improvement, the sewer fund to the sewer replacement and improvement fund for the process for the wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $563,000. That was on the supplemental, that was passed a minute ago.
This is paid back by the loan that we're getting.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Could I have a motion for suspension?
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Please call the roll on the resolution.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
And that also has passed on first read under suspension. Okay, moving on to item 6, ordinance number 048-20, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds from time to time for the purpose of paying the cost of improving the city's municipal water system or refunding debt issued by the city for that purpose, and authorizing the execution and delivery of master trust agreement providing for the rights of the holders of the bonds and pledging certain revenues and funds to secure those bonds and declaring an emergency. With a motion?
So move.
Second.
Kelly?
Thank you. Although the title of this ordinance reads different from time to time for the purpose of paying for the costs of bonds, this was drafted by bond counsel, and they do it with the language that's needed to pass the ordinances. And so it's for one water bond, and then the next ones will be for the sewer bonds. This was the refunding preliminary numbers that I discussed with council probably a couple weeks ago. And then the time frame for the completion was about 3 months at that time. So the water bond will be secured in December of 2020, and the sewer bond has to be secured in January 2021 now, because in order to get the best interest rate for the city, we had the note earlier in this year, so we can't do both of them in the same time frame in 2020, so we have to wait for the sewer into 2021. The preliminary numbers for the refunding for the water was about $23,000 per year on average, and then on the sewer side, it was about $46,000 per year on the sewer side. And so
Savings.
these are the revenue bonds.
Those are the savings, Kelly?
That's the savings estimate. And then this will be competitively bid, and the lowest true interest cost would be awarded. And so as they go along, we'll be able to get the true savings as they get more into it. And we'll have it rated by rating agency in the end of October.
Hey Kelly, can I interrupt real fast?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that the preliminary official statement was filed with the clerk already.
The draft, but we're updating the draft, so she has it on file, yes, and it'll be
Okay.
updated as we get the information. So before the final read is done, it'll be final.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So from time to time does not mean you can do it whenever you want.
No, this is the language from the bond council, and they have standards that they have to have in there. And so we're doing one water bond and one sewer bond. Anytime a bond would be either refunded or taken, the council would vote, and it would go through a whole bunch of legislation and ordinances.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, that will be moving on to second read. Moving on to item I-7, ordinance number 049-20, an ordinance providing the issuance and sale of water system refunding revenue bonds, Series 2020, under Article, I didn't look at that.
18.
Thank you. 18 of the, I'm going to get my calculator out, of the Ohio Constitution, in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $3,165,000 for the purpose of paying the cost of refunding certain outstanding obligations heretofore issued by the city to improve the utility, authorizing various related documents and instruments, including a bond purchase agreement, a first supplemental trust agreement, an escrow agreement, and an official statement, and declaring an emergency. Anybody need me to reread that before? Do you have a motion, please?
Motion.
I'll second. Oh.
All right. Kelly, can you tell us what that means?
Sure. Thank you. This is the second piece of the legislation, and that's the maximum amount it'll be sized as we go along. So the 3,165 is the maximum.
Well, that was easier for you to summarize it than for me to read it. Have any other questions or comments? Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, that will move on to second reads as well. Okay, item I-8, ordinance number 050-20, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds from time to time for the purpose of paying the costs of improving the city's municipal sewer system or refunding debt issued by the city for that purpose, and authorizing the execution and delivery of a master trust agreement providing for the rights of the holders of the bonds and pledging certain revenues and funds to secure those bonds, and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Kelly?
Thank you. This is the same deal as the water. This is just the sewer. We had to have it separate because they have separate indentures. So this is the same explanation for the sewer.
Great. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Sure you don't want suspension on all of these? Okay, moving on to item I-9, number 051-20, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of sewer system refunding revenue bonds, Series 2021, under Article 18 of the Ohio Constitution in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $5,140,000 for the purpose of paying the costs and refunding certain outstanding obligations heretofore issued by the city to improve the utility, authorizing various related documents and instruments, including a bond purchase agreement, a first supplemental trust agreement, an escrow agreement, and an official statement and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Kelly?
Thank you. Again, the maximum amount is $5,140,000. It'll be sized as we go along.
Any other questions or comments? Rox, please call the roll.
Ed,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item J, second reads of ordinances and resolutions. J1 is resolution number 042-20, a resolution appointing Mayor Jason Mazel and Councilman Dan Bear to represent the city of Napoleon, Ohio as members of the Board of Directors of the Community Improvement Corporation of Henry County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
So, second.
Okay. Joel?
This is, just council's approval to have Mayor Mazel and Councilman Bear reappointed to the CIC board.
All right. Any questions or comments? Rox, please call the roll.
Ed,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right. That will move on to third reads. And we have no third reads this evening, so we'll move on to good of the city. The L2, discussion or action on revisions to policy 5, 6, and policy 6 of the employment policy manual. Sorry. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. Let me scroll back to the reciprocity stuff here. There it is. Okay, so the first item is, we updated 2 policies, so it's kind of an ongoing project for us. This isn't something that necessarily needs to come to council at all, really. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that we're going through the policy manual, making updates to it. We went through the Safety and Human Resources Committee to discuss these policies, policy changes. Again, it's not absolutely necessary, but I just wanted to make sure we can continue bringing this to the committee and keep bringing it to council, or we don't need to. Or we can just put it in as a packet item when things are revised and updated for your review, however you want to do it. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on. The reason why we're going through this, a lot of things are outdated in this. So, for instance, this the drug-free workplace or work environment policy. You see the redlining looks scary, and a lot of it was just, delete and replace or, copy paste some things. But, the use of CBD oil, or am I saying that right? CBD oils, the legalized marijuana has come into play, so we wanted to make sure we address some of our policies to make sure that we're all clear that we still have to adhere to our policies that don't allow the use of certain substances. So that was, and it's kind of just a refresh on our drug testing policies. We're not changing how we do things, it's just making sure the verbiage is up to date. The other item is the harassment policy, and again, it's an unlawful discrimination and harassment policy, not the sexual harassment policy. So it's all in one. There were a lot of things that were just like a lot of bullet points that were just kind of condensed in a paragraph word version, and also there was a new definition, I believe, since the last time this was updated, for transgender. That's been updated, so we just want to make sure that we're compliant and up to date with how we handle our harassment and discrimination policies. So that's just the update on the policies. We can continue to do this. This is going to be, like I said, an ongoing project, hoping that it could take less than a year to kind of go through the major points that we'd like to hit, and then go from there. So I just I guess, Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, but no need for any kind of an approval. This is more or less a discussion item and update for council, so you know what's happening.
That's correct. So Napoleon Ordinance 197.13 makes it explicit that the city finance director, city manager, and the law director do not need council approval to make these changes.
Thank you very much. Okay, move on to item L3, discussion or action, approval of plans and specifications for the Oberhaus Interceptor, that 1-1 reduction project. I&I.
Infill and
LTCP.
infiltration, that's a sewer term. Yeah, so, I'm sorry.
LTCP number 21B.
Yes, long-term control plan, yep. So, we have this in our budget to essentially replace and upsize this sewer to accommodate for the years of additional growth that's gonna happen out in that way, and make sure that we can manage the flow of sanitary sewage coming from the from those existing and new developments that are happening. So it's definitely a need, and $275,000 of this is issued to grant money. So requesting approval to advertise for bid.
How much was the total for it?
Estimated at $450,000. 275 is grant money.
Is that the sewer in his backyard?
Pardon?
In Joe's backyard?
Yes.
Is it?
Is
Is
it?
it?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. I've had some problems in the past.
It's definitely full.
Yes.
So,
Did my best. I'll keep my additional comments to myself.
Just a motion for bidding at this point?
yeah, motion to
So-
approve the plans and specs, yeah.
Second.
All right, so is this something that I need to abstain from because I use that sewer once in a while? All right. Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item L5, discussion and action, health costs for, healthcare costs for 2021. Joel?
Thank you. I'll ask Kelly chime in at any time, but I'm going back to the committee, Healthcare Cost Committee met on Friday. We looked at, just what's our bottom line, right? This is the time of year. What is our bottom line? What's the healthcare cost increase is going to be for this year? Well, okay, so I've got some good news to report. The increase it is still an increase, but it's 3.49%. We did meet the wellness goal, so we did get the 1% reduction. It would have been 4.49%, but got a 1% reduction. In addition to that, I will state that this is the first time in over a decade or more. Correct me if I'm wrong, and if you know the dates, then chime in. But first time in over a decade that we are actually, in the Borma group, we're actually lower than the median, than the average. So usually, you probably remember hearing this from years and years of this, but our claims were among the highest among the Borma group for many years. There's no way to say that it's directly related to the wellness program. Not saying that, but it's just that it's amazing how the statistics do follow that. And since the wellness program has been put in place, now our numbers are looking a lot better. So that's a good. Take it for what it's worth. I could be putting my foot in my mouth for next year. I don't know, but it's just a good sign. It's really good to see that we're we're among the lower tier in terms of percentage increases compared to our peers. And 3.49% is well below the national average, which I believe is still around the 6 to 8% range. I've heard some of the other pool groups are higher than that right now, at least locally, so. It's good news. Take it for what it's worth.
Thank you.
In addition to that, we did, vote, the Healthcare Cost Committee voted to eliminate Plan 8. There are no employees on Plan 8 right now. That's an HSA. So everybody right now is on the PPO2 or PPO3 plans. Plan 8, really eliminating that since nobody's on it is a good way to do it now. And it's really, in the long term, is a cost avoidance for the city in the future. So also recommended keeping the percentage split the same. That's 87.5% and 12.5%. That's been the split between this employer and monthly cost for the employees. And recommended to offer the same dental and vision plans in 2021, which is no impact on us, on the city financially. So, Rox, do we need motions on those to accept them, or is that at least on the elimination of the Plan 8, or I guess how have we done it in the past?
We probably should have a motion if they agreed on what the committee recommended.
Okay. Since they were recommendations from the committee, typically they go then to council. Kind of like how the Parks and Rec Board coming up in the next couple of items ahead here.
So a motion to accept the recommendation from the committee?
Correct. Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Rox, please call the roll.
Ken?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Okay, that's been accepted. Item L6, discussion and action accept donation of 24 pallets of bottled water from the Napoleon Lions Club. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. Actually, this came from the Lions Club, a donation. I can't pronounce his name.
Kloos.
Steve Kloos. And Lions Club donated 24 pallets of water, so bottled water, pallets full, so big, big Gaylord boxes full. So we were going to use that to be, kind of a distribution point for some of the surrounding agencies. Some of it's going to the health department, some of it's going to go to the different departments and distribute them from there. So it's a very generous donation from them. I appreciate it.
Great. Could I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Joel, part of the agencies are other outside safety services, right?
Yeah, in the health department, they have some programs where they help people in need.
Great. Item
Haven't reached out to
L7.
Together, we can make a difference yet, though, so there's other agencies.
I think they've already been got it, because we got some of that water
Oh, yeah.
right before this program even started.
Oh.
Sure. Check those and see if they win anymore.
Item L7, discussion or action on entering into an annexation agreement with Napoleon Township. Joel?
Hello, there we go. Bill Myers is here. He's the owner of the property. Part of what Bill wants to do is connect to our sewer system to help his land. His land is south of the city, right on the river, right off of 424. So, if you go past Meyerholz Park, that's his property. And he'd like to connect, put in a pump station for his property and connect to our city sewer. And in order to do that, our sewer rules state that if you will connect to our sewer, you have to annex in. So we've been going through this process to annex, and Bill has requested that we go through the expedited process. So the city of Napoleon and the Napoleon Township would need to enter into this agreement to and adopt the agreement by ordinance. And this would allow for the expedited version of the annexation process. So I guess right now we're requesting that council direct the law director to draft legislation, and then hopefully work out the details of the annexation agreement so that we can see this through. And that I'll ask Bill if you have anything you want to add to this.
Well, I would like to say that, I'm looking forward to being part of the community here with this property. I had planned to build on this property, but my current situation is not the plan of building there. Personally, I have several parties that are interested. This isn't marina or, big development or boat area and docking and so forth. This is just going to be a private residence, and I think it would make an excellent building site, and I would like to continue to move forward with this plan. Chad has been out there and visited the property and has discussed the entire layout of this. We also had some other city employees there that had looked over the whole project and felt as though there wouldn't be any problem with it. And so I was encouraged to do this annexation, and so we've been working through the channels to get the county and the township and everyone working together to be able to create this agreement, and I think we're really close now. I would appreciate it if you could help me move this along.
Thank you, Bill.
So this is like west of Meyerholz,
Yes.
and that's on the south side of the road, that big. Is there any, is there a notice that would go to the residents along the other side of the road then, or does that not matter?
No. Short answer.
Okay.
No, this is just because, and I say that with a little hesitation because we haven't gone through an annexation in years, many years. This admittedly, this is the first one that I've ever been a part of, so I believe the short answer is no. No notice is required. It goes to the township and the city to review and then accept.
We've done a few of these over the years. The only thing that would require notice is if Bill wanted to do something outside of what was allowed in his zoning. But if he's granted annexation, that zoning would be determined at the time of the annexation. And we would set that zoning to what he's looking for, as long as it matches the area, and residential matches that area. So there shouldn't be a need for any type of variance or anything that would require public notice unless Billy finds something that says a notice needs to go out with the expedited annexation.
But he would be able to build there whether it was annexed or not? Or any, or someone?
Assuming he would, assuming he meets building code, yeah.
There's 3 acres in this parcel, and it's completely isolated from everything else, except that it's tied to the city property. And so I think it'd be just a really amazing building site, and looking for, you know, the right person to have just a really wonderful home there. And so it already has underground boring that's been done, and the city of Napoleon provided power, and there's already the drop available there for building. And it also has the Florida water tie-in. That's all set to go. All we have to do is drop a meter in, and this would be the last step in being able to have this property ready for a family to use it.
Any other questions? And I'll entertain a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation, please.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any other comments, questions? Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Moving on to item L8, discussion or action rates and fees for the Napoleon Aquatic Center. Actually, we're just going to refer this to the Parks and Rec Committee. Item L9, discussion or action corporate membership program for the Napoleon Aquatic Center. For that to the Parks and Rec Committee as well. We'll go around the table here. Kelly, had you talked a lot already, so we'll start with you today.
Thanks. The budgets have come back from the department, so we're meeting with them right now, reviewing, and then Joel and I will review them and then make recommendations to you. So that will be a lot of our time in the next month.
Thank you. Joel?
Oh, man, I'm not used to going second.
I was just gonna go around, so.
I have nothing except for a request to go into executive session. To consider the purchase of property. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Molly?
I was reading through the AMP newsletter, and it's great to see Napoleon get so many awards and recognition, so thanks, Joel. Just wanted to let you know.
An avid reader.
Yeah. That's it.
Nothing from me then.
All right. Lori?
Well, Molly stole my thunder. I just wanted to congratulate the electric department and the city for all of those awards, and congratulate the city and Joel for keeping their seat on the board. That's very cool, really important. And just to add on to your comment about the banners, and that's a little bit of genius strategy there, I think, going on to, also our promotion was based on those banners being on the lights, so.
Tom Denny was on the news with them up.
Lots of PR from that. And I missed most of the swearing in. I couldn't find a parking spot when I got.
We got a parking problem.
Yeah. But, so I just wanted to congratulate Officer Merchant, because, Chief Mack, did you say, how long has it been since there's been a woman on the force?
Long time.
Long time.
Yeah, that's my official answer.
Right.
Tara DeMuth, I think, was our last female officer, so probably I'll estimate 10 years. Yep.
So very cool. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Thank you. Some appointments to make. Reappoint Rory Priggy for 3 more years on Board of Public Affairs. Reappoint David Dill for 5 more years on Board of Zoning Appeals. Appoint David Volkman for 4 more years on the Tree Commission, presented by David Volkman, since he's been there since it started. And then also reappoint Ed Clausing to the Tree Commission.
We have a motion to accept these appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing I had was, obviously fall cleanup is starting. I know that's a lot of work, and hopefully we have good weather for the rest of the week for the guys doing all the work out there during this fall cleanup. So that's all I had. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, I do have one more. I have a request for executive session for compensation of personnel.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I had is, it's nice to have all of us in the same room. It feels kind of normal. But the more we think about it, I mean, this COVID pandemic is not over, as we have recently seen with our president. And if you notice, the people that have tested positive around him were people that he's meeting with. So I think, although, enjoy having everyone here, if someone doesn't feel comfortable coming to the meetings, we still can do the WebEx. I spoke with Billy earlier today, and that's, we're allowed to do that at least through the end of the year as of right now. So anyone that feels more comfortable doing that, you're more welcome to do that. So that's all I have. Ken?
I'm good.
All right. Ross?
Nothing for me, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Dan?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you. And Billy?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, did I miss anybody? Make sure. Okay, I'm going to, can I have a motion to go into executive session to consider purchase of property?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to go into executive session for compensation of personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Me too. You gotta turn that back in.
Ready?
Yep. All right. Could I have a motion to come out of executive session for consideration of purchase of property?
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, no action taken. And could I have a motion to come out of executive session for compensation of personnel?
So moved.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Okay, no action taken there. Let's see, item N, approval of payment of bills. In the absence of any objections or correction, the payment of bills shall stand approved. Stand approved. Do you have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Are adjourned.